Hey, Charlotta.
Hey!
Hey, good to have you here.
Oh, I was just waiting for you to start speaking in English.
Yeah.
I was very surprised.
We'll do this in English.
Great to be here, Biggie.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure.
You. Yeah, great. Well, you are running Blixt. And
Yes.
why don't you tell us what you do?
The story of Blixt.
Yeah.
We are still the first company in the world to develop pure digital solid-state circuit breakers in miniature format that fits in fuse boxes for the residential sector and more. So it's quite cool.
So when I think circuit breakers, I think actually a pretty old technique that sometimes breaks down.
Yes.
How does this work? Do you just plug it into the old circuit breaker cabinet, or how does it work?
Yes, ours will be a pure retrofit.
Right.
So you can still use your old cabinet. You don't need a fancy new one. And it's absolutely open software, open source. I mean,
Right.
it's really open, so we are not locked into a proprietary solution.
Right.
And the beauty of having, since 150 years back, we had mechanics.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that when circuit breakers were invented, there were no electronic way to do it. You had
Right.
to separate the current and really make sure it's not dangerous anymore.
Right.
But today we have software, we have digitization, so we never ever have to separate anything. We just limit it. So
Okay.
we are a current limiter, and we do that through software programming.
I get it. And that has the same effect then as simply breaking the current mechanically.
It is.
Yeah.
So when you remove the current, there is no voltage,
Right.
and it's no power at all.
Right.
So it's a really, and there are many benefits, but one of them, I think actually our strongest selling point is the safety.
Okay.
So if you look today, the mechanicals, they still break in milliseconds,
Yeah.
and we do it in nanoseconds.
Okay.
And why is that relevant?
Why is that good?
Yes, but it was a newspaper article. I read it only yesterday, and it was a picture of a rooftop solar installation
Yeah.
that completely burned the roof.
Right.
Because they used, we are both AC and DC breaker in the same hardware, and in this instance it was because the DC breaker, the mechanics after a while fails, and they're not as quick as you would like them to be, and then
Right.
you have the arcs, and it can create fires. And today, since the consumption pattern have changed, you have rooftop solar, you have charging on your cars.
Yeah.
The wires are not designed for that.
Right.
So there have been other instances with when you charge your car on constant 16 amp for a very long period of time.
I can imagine there's completely different monitoring possibilities.
Oh yes, and the options you have today, you can of course put blinks with the eye on the meter and
Yeah.
collect the data, or you can put clamp on sensors and you can collect some data. But since we do it on a sub-metering level, first of all, you have much more granularity in the data, so you can collect any number of sampling rates you would like. We could go up to mega sampling rates, which doesn't make sense from you need to transport the data, so it is
But you can have a lot of quick sampling. Yeah.
Yes, and that's one reason why utilities are interesting, because today the endpoint is the meter,
Yeah.
and they have no clue. They are walking in blind when they try to optimize things. But if you collect this data from the breaker and sub-metering level,
Yeah.
you can see it's a light bulb broken or anything needs maintenance for safety reasons.
Right.
It's a really, really good, and you can act on it.
Yeah.
So you can remotely control.
So that's also where a little bit the environmental impact comes in, of course, because
is.
you can see things that are using electricity unnecessarily, I imagine.
It is, but I think from the sustainability perspective, it's not so much to optimize maybe the use of electricity and try to lower your consumptions.
Right.
It's more consume at the right time.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that is the key benefit from an environmental perspective. We claim that we might have a positive impact on the environment.
Yeah.
But then to prove that, we asked the Swedish Environmental Research Institute to do a proper impact study.
Right.
Where we are not involved, but rather they involved some large European utilities to support. And it was mind-blowing. We could potentially save 22% of carbon emissions of the electricity used in the residential sector. And the only thing they investigated is that if you can use this technology, and with the insights you get, you can shift energy for the periods when it's better when you have more renewables in the grid. So when you have a lot of solar, you try to heat water, heat the home, and then shift them around.
So how is it going for you? Are you on the market? How many houses are using this? Where are you at?
We have passed the R&D phase.
Right.
So, if you look on it was a mapping to the funding. So we raised the round late 2018,
yes,
led by Bavaria Energy Ventures.
Exactly. Got a German investor on board?
Yes,
already. International
no,
VCs.
They are so good, and we handpicked them, and I think they handpicked us.
Yeah.
Because one thing is, getting a VC on board, but it's people.
Yeah, of course.
So we like them a lot. But that funding was to pass.
Shout out to Bayer. Energy Ventures.
We like you. That funding was for passing the R&D and to validate the technology, to checkpoint everything works. And now is the commercialization phase.
It's a combination of hardware. You have to also make sure that the software platform works. You need to make sure that this is user friendly.
Yes,
it's quite an undertaking. It
is. It's extremely ambitious, but we see this as the natural new infrastructure. I think in the future it makes no sense to have something that is less safe and
that you can't control.
And you can't measure. So I think in the future, provided by us or anyone else, it will be digital technologies.
This will be the standard in homes, you mean?
It must be. Yeah. And since it's electronic, we can take it down to a small silicon chip, and then we can even get price points that are very, very attractive.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next, actually. Price points.
Yeah.
How much will it cost?
To answer your question, it will be far cheaper than the existing solutions if you combine metering, remote control and a breaker.
Right.
And just the past year, there have been some initiatives by Legrand and Schneider, big circuit breaker manufacturers, that launch their versions of a smart circuit breaker.
Right.
And when you look at that, they have still the core of mechanics, and then they add smart plugs, sensors, different relays, everything around it, and patching it all up. Per one circuit it costs 250 euros. So it's a lot of money if you want to have it, 10 or 20 of them in your cabinet. Yeah. So we are still in our first generation cheaper than that option.
Okay.
And when we take it down to a silicon chip, our target price point is to produce it at 5 euros. Okay. And then it's the pricing strategy.
Of course, how you actually charge. And of course, since there's some software service involved, maybe even some subscription.
So going forward, I think we will be more of a software company than a hardware company.
Interesting.
But we have plenty to do.
Yeah, you have plenty to do. Well, extremely cool to see you building up, I would say, almost a new product category here in Sweden.
It is.
In the energy industry.
It is. I think it's a fascinating opportunity. Yeah. And having that said, it's not only for homes. Circuit breakers are gatekeepers to all electricity in all industries, implementation areas.
Of course.
So now we have just started up discussion with Rise Ice, the institute up in north of Sweden that they are sponsored by some of Google and Facebook with the service centers.
Right.
So we are a part of that project to see how we can use our circuit breakers because they're so ultra fast. Yeah. You can use them for hot swapping of power sources. And also to detect any abnormalities, so you can see, okay, that server probably needs some maintenance.
Of course, makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Final question. You are running this together with Trude, and you're also a couple.
Yes.
How does that work? You've been doing it for some time, but how is it working out for you?
It is such a strength, because being entrepreneur, I think you can confirm that is not a straight journey.
It's not, and it can be a lonely journey sometimes. At least you can feel a bit lonely when it's tough, I think.
I could imagine, and I think this journey, as everything else, is like you have the opportunities of just wow moments, and then you have really down.
Yeah, the lows a bit.
Yeah, the lows. And especially at those moments, I think we are a good team. So you support each other, and you say like, yes, now I take the
baton.
Yeah, and for us, it's not work; it's a lifestyle. Yeah. So I think for most people, they maybe say, okay, now we have weekend. Yeah. Now we log out. But for us, I think we start work when we wake up in the morning, and maybe what do you think about this? And that's I think for me personally, it's a great lifestyle.
Cool. More of a passion and lifestyle, yeah.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much for taking the time. You're going to present soon, so...
Yes, in half an hour.
Great. Let's get you prepared.
Yes, thank you,
you.
Bigge.